Chair.
A warm welcome to all councillors and officers attending this council meeting and to members of the public and press viewing the meeting via the live stream. I hope you all are keeping well and my best wishes go out to you all in what are still difficult times for many people. I'm Councillor David Andrews and I'm the Chairman of East Lindsey District Council. No problem there. This is our 6th remote meeting of the full council under the new government legislation. To help assist us with a smooth running of this meeting, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping rules. Firstly, please only turn on your microphone when speaking. This is really important, otherwise the audio will become unclear with background noise. If you wish to speak in the meeting, please press the blue raised hand button on the participants list. I will then invite councillors to speak in order that they requested to speak. As usual, a councillor can speak for 5 minutes on an item. A democratic service officer will verbally notify the councillor when there's 30 seconds left and when the 5 minutes are completed. If you need to leave the meeting, please verbally let me and the meeting know this before you leave. Otherwise, we won't know if you meant to leave the meeting or you have left due to a connectivity issue. Finally, if you experience a connectivity issue, please contact Elaine Speed or Joanne Patterson on the contact numbers that have been provided. Our officers will be supporting us during this meeting, and on that note, I'll hand over to Anne Good for item 1 to take the record of attendance. Thank you. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Aldridge.
Present.
Councillor Andrews is present. Councillor Ashton.
Present.
Councillor Richard Avison.
Present.
Councillor Stan Avison.
Present.
Councillor Adrian Benjamin.
Present.
Councillor Wendy Bowkett.
Present.
Councillor Billy Brooks.
Present.
Councillor Danny Brooks.
Present.
I have an apology for Councillor Jimmy Brooks. Councillor Trevor Burnham.
Present.
Councillor Sandra Campbell-Wardman.
Present.
Councillor Graham Cullen.
Present.
I have an apology for Councillor Richard Cunnington. Councillor Mark Dannett.
Present.
Councillor Colin Davey.
Present.
Councillor Sid Dennis.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Devereux.
Present.
Councillor Colleen Dickinson.
Present.
Councillor Dick Edgington.
Present.
Councillor Stephen Eyre.
Present.
Councillor Martin Foster.
Present.
Councillor Richard Fry.
Present.
I have an apology for Councillor William Gray. Councillor Chris Green.
Present. But I've
Understand.
got at 7 o'clock. So
Thank you, Councillor Green. I've noted that. Thank you. Councillor Adam Grist.
Present, Anne. Apologies, I'm having connectivity issues, so I'm just on audio only at the moment rather than video. Every time I try to connect with video, I lose connection. So
Thank you, Councillor Chris. We'll keep an eye. Councillor Will Grover.
Present.
Councillor Alex Hall.
Present.
Councillor David Hall.
Present.
Councillor Sandra Harrison.
Present.
Councillor Paul Hibbett-Greaves.
Present.
Councillor George Horton.
Present.
Councillor Tony Howard.
Present.
Councillor Ross Jackson.
Present.
Councillor Neil Jones.
Present.
Councillor Thomas Kemp.
Present.
Councillor Steve Kirk,
Present.
Councillor Terry Knowles,
Present.
Councillor Andrew Leonard,
Present.
Councillor Craig Leyland,
Present.
Councillor Jill Makinson Sanders,
Yes, present.
Councillor David Manjon. Councillor Manjon not present at the moment. Councillor Graham Marsh,
Present.
Councillor Fiona Martin,
Present.
Councillor Helen Matthews,
Present.
Councillor Steve McMillan,
Present.
Councillor Daniel McNally, Councillor Edward Mossop,
Present.
Councillor Claire Newman,
Present.
Councillor Sarah Parkin,
Present.
Councillor Julie Platt,
Present.
Councillor Paul Rickett,
Present.
Councillor Phil Smith,
Present.
Councillor Jim Swanson.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Mel Turton-Leavers is an apology. Thank you, Chairman. That concludes.
Right, thank you. Item 2, are there any disclosures of interest, please? Councillor Makinson Saunders, please.
In the leaders report, it talks about grants, and my son does the grants.
Thank you. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 14, payment licence, as I have a payment licence. Also, I received a grant, so do I need to declare for when the leader reports the grants? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Dennett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 14, payment licences. I've got 2 licences, and also I received a grant, so I need to ask the same question. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Billy Brooks.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Chairman. Yep, item 14, I work and obviously my dad owns a cafe.
Right, thank you. Councillor George Horton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, it's a question of grants. I was able to secure a grant, so on that fact, I declare an interest on that one.
Okay. Councillor Andrew Leonard.
Yeah, likewise, I received a business grant.
Okay, are there any more? Right, thank you. We move on to item 3, minutes. I wish to propose that the minutes are accurate. Is there anyone got any views on the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, sorry, you missed my hand in respect of the grant applications.
I'll tell you what happened, Councillor Leyland. People hadn't moved their hand and you were off my page. It's coming up
no
now.
problem. It's just to note the declaration regarding grants. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I've got any more? I've got Councillor Marsh wishes to speak as well.
Yeah, same applies to me. I did receive a business grant. Thank you.
Okay, and also Councillor Cullen. A lot more now.
Thank you, Chairman. Also, we received a grant too. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Paul Ibbott-Greaves. Councillor Paul Ibbott-Greaves. Oh, he's gone.
Sorry, yes, I also have received the grant.
All right, thank you. Councillor Ellen Matthews, please.
Just to say that my business received a business grant as well.
Okay. Is that it now? Are there any more? Okay, right, we move on to item 3 then, the minutes. I wish to propose the minutes be accepted, but has anyone got any views on the minutes? Councillor Leyland.
Thank you, Chair. Just on point 47, the minutes recording the political proportionality debate. There was a point of order put forward by Councillor Mackson-Sanders in relation to Councillor Parkin's declarations of interest, her DPI form, and it's subsequently been clarified that her Councillor Parkin's declaration of interest was actually correctly filled out. And I think it would be helpful, because Councillor Mackson-Sanders made that point in an open meeting, and then went on to say that it was a criminal offence not to declare any changes within 28 days. I think it would just be appropriate if Councillor Mackson-Sanders acknowledged that the DPI form was in fact correctly filled out. That would be helpful, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mackson-Sanders.
Thank you, Councillor Leyland, for that clarification. And I'll get in touch with you about your DPI as well. Thank you.
Is that satisfactory, Councillor Leyland?
Well, it's going to be a long evening. Without extending it even further, I think I'll leave it there, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a seconder for the minutes, please?
Yeah, I'll second them, Chairman. Councillor Marsh.
Right, thank you. So we won't go all the way through the vote. We take the minutes as accepted. Item 4, action sheets. Items deferred from the previous meeting, items 5 and 6. Motions on notice. Motion 1, Magna Vitae, was withdrawn. Motion 2, protection of the elderly and the vulnerable. And that's proposed by Councillor George Alton and seconded by Councillor Terry Aldridge. Over to you, Councillor Alton.
Well, thank you, Chair. Yes. I presume as it was transferred or carried over from the previous meeting, my colleagues have chanced to read the very basic motion put forward. I will say since the last meeting, again and again, I've had experience where unsolicited phone calls are being made to the vulnerable and to the elderly, and it does concern me greatly that somebody who doesn't understand what is going on can quite easily give bank details out, and I think it's appalling that this kind of action is allowed to continue. As I've stated in my motion there, that one of the gaming objectives is to protect children and vulnerable adults. What I believe surely as a responsible authority here, we have that same duty. There are quite a number of elderly people and vulnerable people within our district, and it saddens me to say that unfortunately people of this nature do seem to prey on the vulnerable, on the elderly, particularly with the new digital workings of the world. They don't know what they're doing. They quite understand. And as I say, I have experienced the phone calls myself, and they are quite pressurizing. And it's quite easy for one of these people to give bank details out and being totally misled and misunderstood. And I think as an authority, what I propose is that we do back this motion, and we write to our MPs, namely Victoria Atkin and Matt Warman, stressing our concerns and asking what can be done about it, and look forward to hearing from their response. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Aldridge, did you wish to say anything?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chairman. I'm seconding this proposal. I do actually get several calls during the week. What I usually do is just say to them, this is an unsolicited phone call and I've taken your number down, and I will be handing it to the police and trading standards. And very often, well, they always slam the phone down and sometimes doubt my parentage. So I think that's the way forward. The other thing I would suggest that every councillor becomes a scam champion. I'm a scam champion, and I know that Graham, Councillor Graham, is one, because I've noticed his certificate on the notice board in the members' room. but I would suggest that everyone registers as a scam champion. It doesn't cost anything, and you do go through a little questionnaire, and then you are registered as a scam champion. So yeah, so I'll stop there, but I reserve my right to speak later if necessary.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Marsh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just to say that Councillor Aldridge is quite correct. I'm a scam champion as well. The deputy PCC some time ago ran courses for people who showed an interest to get the training to become scam champions. We did put it out on the members' brief shortly after I qualified, and one or two people took it up. Hence, Councillor Aldridge and one or two others are now scam champions. I don't feel that by supporting this motion we're going to take this any further. The MPs are both fully aware of our concerns and are taking the matter forward with the appropriate minister. Another concern that I've raised, and which is also being taken forward, is not just necessarily the scams, but if you watch daytime TV, most of the adverts, particularly this time of year, are from what you would class as reputable charities, all begging for £3 here for a donkey or £2 there for a lost cat. All the very good causes, I'm sure. But like other councillors, I have come across people within my ward, and when you top up what their £2 here a month is and £3 there, I've found some that have been in excess of £100 a month that they're being paying out. That to me is worse than the scams that they hit and once. And another thing that's been reported back to me, in fact, this week, is that when people ring up and cancel their subscription, they're then harassed by these charities saying, why have you stopped? Don't you love cats and all the rest of it? And really give them a guilt trip. So I think really it's a case that we should be aware and push it out as far as we can to the communities, to the groups we meet, to the town and parish councils, so that we have a concerted effort. And my advice to anybody is don't support any charity that's been on the television. Support your local charity when you know where that money, and you can see where that money is going to, and you know that that money is being spent how you want it to be spent. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ros Jackson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is something that we've seen an uptick in, this kind of scamming activity as a result of COVID, and it's something that it's been very distressing. I've had cases in my ward affecting elderly people, and it's very distressing for them when this happens. So I absolutely fully back this motion. I think it's important that we highlight this to the MPs, and I think we should take a stand. Thank you.
Councillor Wendy Boquet, please.
Thank you. I too am a scam champion like Councillor Marsh is. We did have the Deputy Police Commissioner come to Manby at the beginning of last year, and he did a presentation to us all. Also, in June last year, Trading Standards did a whole month on scam awareness. PCSOs have been going round. I don't know in your area, but if they haven't been going out to your parish councils, certainly in my area, the PCSOs have been working with the Deputy Police Commissioner, and they have been putting out the scam awareness. And I would just tell all councillors they should be working with their parish councils, and they should be making their parish councils aware of it. They should be having the scam awareness put all on their notice boards. And if anybody does get any of these calls, report it to their local PCSO immediately, and they will be able to help to get their calls blocked. So I think, we have done a huge amount of work, both TED and the Better Ageing, the Wellbeing. We all know about scams, and we are all out there. And as councillors, we should all be backing this already. Thank you.
Councillor Craig Latham, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up on some of the points Councillor Bogut making about the the schemes that are already in place. I will suggest that we do support this, but we widen the remit of it, as Councillor Marsh has suggested, to include those established charities that do put pressure on people without realising it. As Councillor Jackson's made the point, people are particularly vulnerable at this time, and I think it's something we should be very aware of. But there has been an awful lot of work being done through TED, through the various organisations, the police, to make sure that people are as aware as possible. We will make sure that message is reinforced, but there is an awareness issue for us as councillors as well, to look for what information is available and support is there to give to our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Terry Knowles, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think there's anybody on the council which wouldn't fail to back this. We all suffer from this situation. I don't know if I'm a scam champion, but if anybody would like a copy of the text that I used to reply to these idiots, they guarantee almost that they will not return the call. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Howard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I too would support a couple of letters being sent as the motion requests, and I have to admit that when the mind is upon me, I do have a little sport with these people that ring me and lead them a merry dance on the grounds that if they spend 2 or 3 minutes talking to me, then they're not pestering somebody else. But it can get wearing after a while, even when you're having a bit of fun like that. What I would say is we may also be missing a trick. There are various free services such as Call Guardian and the like, and I think we could possibly, if we're thinking of doing a little bit of campaigning ourselves, advertise these free services as well. But certainly this motion will get my support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Makinson Sanders, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just before you start, can I ask all those people that have spoken to take their blue hand down, please, because the blue hands are not coming up from the bottom. That's it. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Way you go.
It's okay. I've got blue hands, but only because I'm cold. Right. I support this motion as well. This is the fastest growing crime in this country at the moment. Victoria Atkins is a policing minister, so she's well placed to support ELDC's requests in this to get something further done about it, because I know things are being done. But the better we can safeguard people, the better. I do know a young lady in Louth who was. She found a doctor online who conned her out of thousands. She went into Louth Post Office and they tried to stop her actually sending the money. So there are other ways to try and stop it. But she wouldn't have any of it. She said it was her business and that's what she wished to do. And this person just used an empty office address in Edinburgh, and she literally lost thousands. So it's not just the elderly. She was only in her 30s. It's very, very sad. I can see why people who are lonely and vulnerable fall for these things. So I think we should do everything we can to support them. And if Councillor Marsh would like to send details of how we can join up with the scheme, because we never see PCSOs, they don't really exist around Louth very much. If you could send me a link to doing the online course, I'd be quite keen to do it, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Parkin, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've listened to what people have said with interest, really. I think we are all aware of the traditional scams that people purporting to be representing businesses and charities engage in. And I think the difficulty is with that we must remember that those details can then be shared and are regularly shared by those individuals and by those criminals. And they actually trade in what is called a suckers list, so that they are then giving each other the names and addresses and contact details of those people who have been duped. So we have to recognise that this is actually an organised criminal activity, but also not diminish the fact that what we have at the moment in terms of very lonely, very isolated people are unscrupulous individuals offering to do cleaning, offering to do shopping, and then charging residents for it. And I have a case in my division at the moment where somebody has paid an extortionate amount of money for that kind of loose arrangement for private home care. So this is beginning to look a little bit different now than that organised crime that we would normally associate with it. And I would really ask, in terms of not forgetting the Adult Safeguarding Board in this, they've got a really crucial role, not just to safeguard individuals, but also to pass on local intelligence about how scams are changing, how they're evolving. So I just want to give them a bit of a name plug, really, the Adult Safeguarding Board, that the County Council contribute to, because they are a crucial partner. They're a multi-agency partnership, including health, including the police, including the county and the district councils. And it's really important that we input into them about how scams are changing and evolving within our communities so that they can put the protections in place on a wider level.
Thank you. Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's certainly worrying. I definitely support this motion. It's worrying that we listen to people that say we did this a year ago, 2 years ago. Why hasn't the government done anything about it? We need the government to take action. Councillor Marsh says about the adverts on the TV. I've seen them. Why aren't they stopped from doing that? So we definitely need to be writing to our MPs to get this through. It's a growing crime, and it's not, those adverts on the TV aren't a crime, but they do take everybody's money. So I think something needs doing, and the government has got to take a lead. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Rickett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to say I'd spoken to Councillor Leyland. We'd spent a little time, as I said we would, discussing this, and I explained some of the technical part of it. I hope I didn't bore him to death too much. But there was a little slogan that was coming out, and I'd seen in some of the main presses, and particularly from Watchdog, and we were discussing about the council adopting it, and that was "out of the blue, not for you." Very happy to talk to any of my fellow councillors if they want to discuss it further, of how these people managed to get through the phone system. It should be noted that TPS Online is also a free registration that anybody can register. But happy to have any questions away from the meeting if anybody would like some further info. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Phil Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think currently, generally speaking, trading standards do a really good job in having scam awareness weeks and so on, in which they advertise, both that they are available for reporting, but also just general scam awareness across a whole range of current techniques, which usually go out our public buildings. I'm very much aware that obviously a lot of those buildings are currently closed, so it might be worth trying to find some way of extending this year, if what Ros says is correct about an increase in this type of criminal activity, that perhaps we trading standards to promote some sort of online thing that would replace those real world campaigns that they do each year. Because I know they are great work. When I worked in libraries, I know I've had hordes of old people coming in with reams of paper, phone numbers, Lord knows what, lots of good evidence for trading standards, and just keeping it fresh in their minds as to what the issues are. I totally agree that there are sort of criminals out there doing these things, but there are also sort of what we would normally think of as legitimate businesses who are mis-selling and hard selling products that are inappropriate way. So it's a double-edged thing here, and it's not just charities trying to chip away at people. It's things like insurance being sold to people inappropriately, and so on. And I would, all of this is obviously outside we can that's great. I would also say one thing we should be calling for, and one thing that we can perhaps encourage legislation on, is synthetic geographic number. Someone from outside the country.
Councillor Smith, you keep breaking up.
Sorry. Synthetic geographic numbers are those numbers that are used where it says someone's calling from Halifax or Cleethorpes, but actually they're calling from abroad and they're no longer covered by our legislation. We could put into our communications legislation some kind of ban of that kind of synthetic geographic number, and I would be wholeheartedly support this council putting that to the communications minister. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Terry Aldridge, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, thank you to everyone who was prepared to support this. I've had recently a scam, well, several scams actually, on my computer. It looked as though it was a very genuine communication, but it wasn't. And also I had a phone scam recently where that also seemed it was very genuine. What I always do, as I say, I always take the number down. I tell them initially that this is a scam, and very often when I've told them that their number will be handed over to the police, they put the phone down. But this one in particular didn't, and started on my bank details, and I said, right, I'll phone you back. And when I phoned the number back, it was a totally different organisation. So, you know I'm elderly and old and everything else, but even I can be scammed if you're not careful. So just take care. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I just tell them I haven't got a bank account. Councillor Alton.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to my colleagues for basically supporting this motion. Just a couple of points that I would like to raise. We talked about television advertising and charities that are forever on television. The difference there, of course, is that a person has to get up out of the chair and make that call. What I'm talking about is the phone calls where they answer the call direct. And there are two differences as well. You have got the scammer who will obviously try and sell you something, a product, and not send it, having got your bank details. But it's also these people in a lot of cases that are selling insurance for drains, for washing machines, for televisions. They're probably legitimate firms, and these callers may be on a commission, but they are hounding people and conning them out of their money, selling them insurance on probably a product that they've got a guarantee on anyway. So, I mean, it's the whole concept of it. And we talk about, well, there are organisations in place, safeguarding, etc., etc. That may well be. But my answer to that is, well, it can't be working, because from first-hand experience, these calls are nuisance calls and they are getting through to the people. So the organisations that are set up to stop it, I'm afraid, well, they must do a little bit more work, because it is just not happening. But on the whole, thank you very much indeed. And I hope this motion does go forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Anne, over to the vote.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Councillor Aldridge.
4.
Councillor Andrews.
4.
Councillor Ashton.
4.
Councillor Richard Avison.
4.
Councillor Stan Avison.
4.
Councillor Adrian Benjamin.
4.
Councillor Wendy Bowkett.
4.
Councillor Billy Brooks.
4.
Councillor Danny Brooks.
4.
Councillor Jimmy Brooks is an apology. Councillor Trevor Burnham.
4.
Councillor Sandra Campbell-Wardman.
4.
Councillor Graham Cullen.
4.
Councillor Richard Cunnington. Sorry, Richard Cunnington's an apology. Councillor Mark Dannett.
4.
Councillor Colin Davey.
4.
Councillor Sid Dennis.
4.
Councillor Sarah Devereux.
4.
Councillor Colin Dickinson.
4.
Councillor Dick Edgington.
4.
Councillor Stephen Eyre.
4.
Councillor Martin Foster.
4.
Councillor Richard Fry.
4.
Councillor William Gray is an apology. Councillor Chris Green.
4.
Councillor Adam Grist.
4.
Councillor Will Grover.
4.
Councillor Alex Hall.
4.
Councillor David Hall.
4.
Councillor Sandra Harrison.
4.
Councillor Paul Hibbert Greaves.
4.
Councillor George Horton.
4.
Councillor Tony Howard.
4.
Councillor Ros Jackson.
4.
Councillor Neil Jones.
4.
Councillor Thomas Kemp.
4.
Councillor Steve Kirk.
4.
Councillor Terry Knowles.
4.
Councillor Andrew Leonard.
4.
Councillor Craig Leyland.
4.
Councillor Jill Makinson Sanders.
4.
Councillor David Manjon is an apology. Councillor Graham Marsh.
4.
Councillor Fiona Martin.
4.
Councillor Helen Matthews.
4.
Councillor Steve McMillan.
4.
Councillor Daniel McNally.
4.
Councillor Edward Mossop.
4.
Councillor Claire Newman.
4.
Councillor Sarah Parkin.
4.
Councillor Julie Platt.
4.
Councillor Paul Rickett.
4.
Councillor Phil Smith.
4.
Councillor Jim Swanson.
4.
And Councillor Mel Turton-Levers is an apology. Thank you. Just one moment, please, Chairman.
Hey.
Thank you, Chairman. That's carried. 50 in favour and 5 absent.
Right, thank you. Item 5, motion 3. It's another motion carried over from the last meeting. Adopting the UN Sustainability Development Global Goals, proposed by Councillor Rod Jackson, seconded by Councillor David Hall. So it's over to you, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. It's important in politics to get the basics right. I'm bringing this motion to you because it's all about fundamental values that will help our residents thrive, values that are backed by the UK government, by the LGA and by the international community. All of these 17 goals matter. They're goals such as combating hunger and poverty, improving health and well-being, good education, decent work and economic growth, reducing inequalities. And these are all things we should be able to get behind. 5 goals relate to the natural environment, and as an authority with roles in planning and waste disposal and a 70-kilometre coastline in the district, we can make a big difference to these. Goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities, is one we can particularly impact. Targets within this goal include ensuring everyone's got access to adequate, safe and affordable housing by 2030 and increasing settlements with plans for disaster risk management in place. As a waste removal authority with responsibilities within environmental protection, our role is going to be crucial in delivering targets within Goal 12, responsible consumption and production. This includes the environmentally sound management of waste throughout their life cycle to reduce pollution, and also ensuring people have the information they need about sustainable lifestyles. Then you've got Goal 15, life on land, which will be important to a district with both the Wolds AONB and a relatively low level of tree cover compared with the rest of the country. So integrating ecosystem and biodiversity values into local planning, development processes and poverty reduction strategies is an aspect of one of the targets within this. It's important, I think, to stress that passing this doesn't mean usurping the government's role in delivering these outcomes. It means attending to the goals that apply to ELDC, because clearly not all of the goals are relevant to a district council. There are 169 targets within these goals, but of these, maybe 30 to 40 are directly relevant to us. Goal 17 is all about partnership working. And for a long time in this authority, we've stressed the importance of that. The government won't achieve these targets alone, and nor will ELDC. It's going to take organisations at every level playing their part. When our corporate plan was devised, officers were aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, and ELDC officers have already been engaging with these goals. So by backing this motion, you will be endorsing and highlighting the good work that's already taken place. Thank you.
Councillor David Hall, did you wish to speak?
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Chris Green, I think I need to leave now.
Right, okay.
Okay. Yes, Chair, I would like to reply. I'm very happy to second this motion. Councils are important drivers of sustainable development and are uniquely placed to understand the needs of local communities. They will therefore be the key drivers of sustainable development at the local level. We can use these SDGs to rebuild our economies in a resilient and sustainable way, focusing on creating good lives on a healthy planet for all people. That was a statement by Peter Fleming, the head of the LGA's Improvement Innovation Boards. Despite facing enormous pressures and sustained funding cuts, councils have maintained provision for essential services for their communities and continue to look ahead at how they can work closely with the government to achieve these targets, including the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. As councils across the country continue to lead their communities through the present pandemic, it is vitally important that they have the resources and support to lead them through this recovery and to continue to fight against climate change. Councils are at the front of meeting these challenges that the SDGs seek to resolve, and it's therefore essential that the government recognises that engagement with the goals cannot purely be an internal exercise, to which I would definitely like to support this motion. Hello? Finished?
Have you finished?
Yes.
Yeah? Councillor Hall, have you finished?
Yes.
Right. Councillor Tony Howard, I had a break in the electric just as you finished. Councillor Tony Howard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think this motion comes at just the right time. As a council, we've been leading the charge on such things as the carbon reduction targets and the recent scrutiny work that was done in that area, and I think taking on board the relevant targets within the sustainable development goals is absolutely the right thing to do at this stage, and therefore this motion will get my support.
Thank you. Councillor Craig Leyland, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say that the motion being brought forward is, and I'm very pleased that Councillor Jackson recognises the good work that this council has done in terms of its corporate strategy and the ambitions within that, and also the work that we're doing in our carbon reduction plan. But I think it is not the time to adopt this. I think we need to do some more work of understanding what the basis of the Sustainable Development Goals all are across the board, and how they relate to our corporate strategy. So I think it would be rash for us to adopt it tonight. I think we need to have more understanding of that. And I've spoken to our Chief Exec and Climate Change Portfolio and also the officers dealing with this. So I think on the basis that we need to understand more what this, how this ties up with our corporate strategy, and indeed all the good work that we've done, I would prefer to have more understanding before this council adopts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Graham Marsh, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, very much similar to what Councillor Lane said. I think we're already doing some really good work. What concerns me is that we adopt this sustainable development global goals, and really, unless it affects what the council does, or unless the council can have an effect, it's just a load of words on a piece of paper. What I would hate to do is to adopt something which has no relevance that we can alter, and no relevance to the council. I would like to go through this in more detail, look at the ones which are relevant and which we can affect, and ones that we could support, and show that we are making a difference for that particular goal, and then bring it back to council and then incorporate that into our strategies. So I feel I've difficulty supporting this, because I think if we support it, it's just going to get put on the shelf and we shan't do an awful lot with it. Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Fiona Martin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, just listening to the debate, I wonder if this wouldn't be a good piece of work to go to overview for a scrutiny panel to look at this and just answer some of the questions that have been raised by the last couple of speakers, like how the goals that I'm sure we all agree with, the sentiment behind this, it's just how we can actually influence things as a council. And I just wondered if it would be a good idea for this to go to a scrutiny panel for them to actually look and see how we as a council could do things.
Okay. Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I tend to agree with Councillor Martin. I don't want to. I know the council are doing a very good job. The times are tough, and I wouldn't like to see our hands tied with something that we have to do when we can't really. We've got to see what we can cope with and what affects us first. So I think it needs to be scrutinised before we accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Kirk, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, Councillor Martin said exactly what I was going to say. I think there's the 17 goals there. I think we need to look at them individually and see how they interlace with what we're doing already, because I'm sure there are going to be some stuff there that we can do with very, very little cost or disruption to this council, and that's fantastic. If we could make some early wins and then have a programme of work to try and hit the harder stuff, because I agree entirely, this is where we should be going. We should be about sustainable development. We should be about not only enhancing for this generation, but for future generations as well. So it is an important piece of work, but overview and scrutiny would be the right place to do a piece of mapping against the goals and what we currently do. And
thank you.
I'd like to see that if that could be anyway tied into a proposal, that would be very useful. Otherwise, this will just get lost, won't it?
Thank you. Councillor Jill Makinson-Sanders, please. You're on mute, Jill.
I do apologise. It's not like me, is it? Councillor Phil Smith recently did a very good piece of work on green issues for this council, and this actually follows on from it. It's part 2 of the work that he did. Sarah is working really hard on this, and I'm happy to say that we're seeing results with things that we've put forward, and working with her really well on this. And I do tend to agree with Councillor Leyland. I think it does need discussing. But I would have thought that this was a natural follow-on to what Councillor Smith had done earlier in the year.
Thank you. Councillor Ashton, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to tread over ground that's already been covered by colleagues tonight, but simply to re-emphasise the point that there are simply far too many things on this, of this 17 sustainability goals. The points which come under those are so far wide-ranging, as Councillor Jackson alluded to when she presented this motion. A lot of this stuff isn't relevant to a district council, and I personally not want to see us sign up to stuff that we haven't had the opportunity to go through and realise exactly what we are signing up to and the implications of that. I only need to remind councillors that at our last meeting, we ended up debating for a few short moments in what ended up being an incredibly long meeting, whether or not the public conveniences in Alford, whether that asset transfer should or should not carry a carbon assessment. And all of this, it's nice to do, it's very worthy. How much of it is genuinely relevant to the people that we serve in our communities? And I can only, I can pick some of goal 11 that just sort of fall readily to mind. I mean, 11A, support positive economic, social and environmental link between urban, peri-urban and rural areas by strengthening national and regional development planning. If I tried explaining that to any of the parish councils in my ward, they think I'd gone stark staring mad. It's not their priorities. And good planning, it doesn't need the United Nations to tell us what good planning is. We are a local planning authority. We have already signed up to climate change and lower carbon and to improve our environment. We take all of these things incredibly seriously. And I would always be very cautious about burdening our excellent officers with further stuff that they've got to put into a report, because we all sat around of an evening and thought that it was a marvellously worthy thing to do, to adopt something that the United Nations thought would be a marvellously worthy thing to do. So it's about getting that balance. I would be prepared to support this going to scrutiny, because that is the right and proper place to see which bits of this fit rather than full council. And appreciating we've got an incredibly long agenda tonight, I won't trouble anyone any longer.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Parkin, please.
Tom absolutely has taken the words out of my mouth in terms of, for me, what really matters in this motion is how it impacts our communities on a really local level. I think the danger with looking at it from a United Nations perspective is that we can do it, we can say, yes, we're doing this, and then we're not doing that. But then it gets kicked into the long grass, kicked into the ether, and nothing moves forward. What we've got to realise is that sustainable development for us within our communities is actually at times on quite a small scale. It's things like tree planting, just our own community work, and as Tom was saying, our local planning initiatives, our local planning policy. And so I think for me it is about marrying this to our corporate strategy. Now, the first time this came to us last time, I did a little bit of work And it actually made me feel quite buoyant and quite hopeful about what we were already doing as a council, because in fact, so much of what was in there, we could already say that we were achieving and that we were working towards, either in the short term or the long term. So I would look forward to this coming to scrutiny and for us doing a piece of work on it, because I think it would actually increase our sense of confidence as to what we were doing as a council, without really burdening our offices as it being an explicit piece of work. And I think if there are things that scrutiny pick up as gaps, then we can rightfully fill them. But I think what Tom said about it being the parish council test is really, really important. You know, is this, we are here to affect change for our communities. And for me, the key point in this how would the lives of our individual residents be changed by us moving in that direction? And if it wouldn't change, then I'm not too sure that there's a reason to do it, other than to say that we have. So for me, it's about what change can we show we can impact by the actions that we may take moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Colin Davey, please.
Thanks, Chairman. More of the same, really. I think, whilst the Sustainable Development Goals are all very worthy and very important and everything, most of them are totally irrelevant in terms of what the district council can physically do and the powers that they have to deliver them. We all know that all planning must be sustainable anyway. Sustainable development goes through everything these days. So I think it's absolutely right that scrutiny should look at it. One or two of the development goals may be applicable. There might be things that the district council can do to be supportive in that area, but the best thing to do is let scrutiny look at it, analyse it and come back with some recommendations to the executive.
Thank you. Councillor Claire Newman, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to bring back to the motion that's in front of us. It does actually say that what we're asking is that the council resolves to begin work by mapping which targets are relevant. So surely that is what we're asking, and what Ros Jackson is asking anyway. So I'm a bit confused why we're going off piste on this. Surely the motion before us is that we will start work on it. I'm sorry if I've got that confused, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Sid Dennis, please.
Yeah, Chairman, I've just got to leave the meeting. I'll leave my computer turned on, but I've got to go out for a few minutes and I will return to the meeting later. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Terry Aldridge, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, it actually says in the motion, as has recently been said, this council resolves to begin work by mapping which targets are relevant. And I think that's the key. Perhaps some people haven't really read what the motion was or is. It clearly says this council resolves to begin work by mapping which targets are relevant. So I will support this motion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Craig Latham, please.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate coming back for another comment.
I think you're going to make something good.
Thank you. No pressure. Just in respect of the idea that we take this to overview, I think that's a sound idea. I think that's probably where this should have started, in fairness. And I don't want to undermine or diminish the importance that Councillor Jackson holds this motion in. But the wording of it is quite critical. And I think just picking up on the last 2 points, the wording here says this council believes it is right to formalise our commitment to the goals and therefore adopts the Sustainable Development Goals, agreeing to pursue the goals and the work undertaken by the council. That is quite emphatic, actually, that there's not too much leeway in there. I think we need to fully understand what the issues are. and then take on board those that tie in with the work that we've done already. And as I say, this is not meant to undermine anyone's position on this. Fully understand that everyone is committed to these goals, or the ambition that we have as a council to reduce our carbon and lessen our impact on climate change. So I think this needed to start at another place, but if it helps, while there might be a vote taken that doesn't support this motion, I will make sure that I contact Councillor Martin to take this forward as a topic for the next programme of works for the Overview Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Fiona Martin, please.
Thank you. I don't think, as we said earlier, anybody's arguing against the substance of this motion. I think what the debate is around is how we do it. And I did make a suggestion earlier, and I'm quite happy to give an undertaking this evening that at next week's overview meeting, we have got the future programme on the agenda. I'm quite happy to put this into that and set up a panel fairly quickly to undertake that piece of work. I would hope maybe, as it's been said earlier, Councillor Smith did a very good piece of work recently, and this does fit in quite nicely alongside the work that he did. So I would hope that he might consider chairing any panel that was set up next week or after next week's meeting to look at this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ros Jackson, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for everyone who's made their comments known. Thank you for everyone who has supported this motion. To the councillors, I'm going to answer you kind of as a group, because there's a very clear theme coming through in your comments. I do think it's disappointing that you think that the timing is wrong, Councillor Leyland, and but I don't see any incompatibility with what's actually in the motion as written and taking this to scrutiny. I think that is outlined, a mapping exercise is outlined as the first step, and doing that through scrutiny is entirely compatible with this motion. Councillor Ashton, you have talked about there being too many things on this. I do agree that 169 targets is too many for this council to take on, but I just want to emphasise that the point isn't that we take on every single one of those targets. Absolutely not. We do the mapping exercise first, and then we look at what's relevant to us and what's relevant to our communities. Councillor Parkin, you've talked about the importance of the local level and how it needs to be on a small scale, and I do completely agree with that. I think that's where we need to be aiming for with this exercise. We don't want to be aiming at something that's suitable for cities or something that's suitable for entire governments. It really is down to the local level, and those tree planting projects, for instance. Okay, Councillor Martin, I think it's a great suggestion to bring it to overview and scrutiny, and I thank you for that. I think that's been a large theme in the comments coming back. But as I say, I don't think that's incompatible with what's in the motion. I think we can do both. Okay. Thank you very much. And we'll see what the vote brings.
Thank you. Okay, and we go to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Aldridge. For. Councillor David Andrews.
Against.
Councillor Tom Ashton. Councillor Ashton. come back to Councillor Ashton. Councillor Richard Avison.
Against.
Councillor Stan Avison.
Against.
Councillor Adrian Benjamin.
Against.
Councillor Wendy Bowkett.
Against.
Councillor Billy Brooks.
Against.
Councillor Danny Brooks.
Against.
Councillor Jimmy Brooks is absent. Councillor Trevor Burnham.
Against.
Councillor Sandra Campbell-Wardman.
Against.
Councillor Graham Cullen.
For.
Councillor Richard Cunnington is absent. Councillor Mark Dannett.
Against.
Councillor Colin Davey.
Against.
Councillor Sid Dennis.
He left the room.
Oh, he left the room, so he's absent. Thank you very much. Councillor Sarah Devereux.
Against.
Councillor Colin Dickinson.
For.
Councillor Dick Edgington.
Against.
Councillor Stephen Eyre.
For.
Councillor Martin Foster.
Against.
Councillor Richard Fry.
Against.
Councillor William Gray is absent. Councillor Chris Green is absent. Councillor Green's left the meeting. Councillor Adam Grist.
Against.
Councillor Will Grover.
Against.
Councillor Alex Hall.
Against.
Councillor David Hall.
For.
Councillor Sandra Harrison.
Against.
Councillor Paul Hibbert Greaves.
Against.
Councillor George Horton.
Regretfully, I can't vote because I didn't attend the full debate, so therefore I am not eligible to vote.
Thank you. So that's an abstention. Councillor Tony Howard.
For.
Councillor Ross Jackson.
For.
Councillor Neil Jones.
Against.
Councillor Thomas Kemp.
Against.
Councillor Steve Kirk.
Against.
Councillor Terry Knowles.
For.
Councillor Andrew Leonard.
For.
Councillor Craig Leyland.
Against.
Councillor Jill Makinson Sanders.
I'm going to abstain because I would like to have put an amendment that it went to overview. So abstaining is hopefully it will go to overview.
Thank you. Councillor David Manjon.
I wasn't here at the beginning, so I'll have to abstain. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Graham Marsh.
Against.
Councillor Fiona Martin.
Abstain, but I hope it'll come to overview.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Matthews.
Against.
Councillor Steve McMillan.
For.
Councillor Daniel McNally.
Against.
Councillor Edward Mossop.
For.
Councillor Claire Newman.
For.
Councillor Sarah Parkin.
Against.
Councillor Julie Platt.
Abstain for overview, please.
Councillor Paul Rickett.
Against.
Councillor Phil Smith.
For.
Councillor Jim Swanson.
For.
And Councillor Mel Turton-Levers is absent. I'll just come back to Councillor Ashton. I don't believe we heard Councillor Ashton. Councillor Ashton, can you hear me now?
Apologies, and I was fiddling around trying to get my microphone to function. I am again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. One moment, please. Thank you, Chairman. That motion is lost. That was 14 for, 30 against. Five abstentions and 6 were absent.
Thank you. Just before we go to the questions from the last meeting, I'm just going to have a 3-minute break. Okay.